I guess to a point where niggas don't enjoy the sport no more. You can't even watch because people are not playing to their full potential. You know what I mean? And it sucks. It sucks. It takes out the fun of the game, bro. The NBA is finished. After all the allegations about the gambling shit, is getting wicked. Now it made sense. Now it makes sense. Some of the games were just looking too unreal. Because then you have players not playing to their full game and then affecting the whole shit. J.R. Smith gotta get booked. I don't care. Because I remember that final, there's no way, bro. No lie. Gambling dead ass like took away the fun in sports, in watching sports. You know what I mean? Because there's always somebody that's going to try to take advantage of the shit, bro. And the fact that, like, planting that in our brain to gamble 24/7 too, and then now they're going against it when niggas are cheating the system, quote unquote, is crazy.
We all know the rules. We all know the letter of the law. Innocent till proven guilty. But usually when the FBI has something, they have you. All these guys
100%.
knew what was at stake. A shame that they put themselves and put the NBA in this position.
Remember when I told you about the biggest gambling scandal in modern NBA history? The one where Hall of Fame coach Chauncey Billups and NBA player Terry Rozier.
Bro, but it's so crazy though, like, the fact that these guys are getting millions of dollars and you still go and do that shit is insane to me. And they're not the only one doing this in professional sports. I bet you there is a lot of other niggas doing the same shit, whether it's in the NBA, NFL, MLB, nigga hockey, nigga everything, bro.
Got arrested by the FBI? Well, it gets so much worse. And I mean so much worse. Since we dropped that video, the FBI director himself has fired back at critics. We've gotten our hands on the actual federal indictment with details that are absolutely insane. And new information has come out suggesting the NBA knew about this for over a year and did nothing. We're talking about a potential
Them niggas knew and they do shit. So all y'all niggas that was gambling, bro, cooked. But that means that, like, if they're partnering up with like other gambling shit and then some insider info tips it off, then it's not fair for the other majority of the other gamblers. I don't condone gambling, by the way. I tried it, it didn't work out for me, I quit. I'ma keep it a buck. Cause I knew that there was like some sketchy shit.
Cover-up at the highest levels of professional basketball. And here's the thing that nobody's talking about. When Chauncey Billups was arrested, he was wearing a brown Clutch Sports hoodie. You know, the agency founded by LeBron James and Rich Paul. The same LeBron James whose name is all over this indictment because his former teammate Damon Jones was allegedly selling insider information about him. So
what the fuck? That's a full 48. Backdoor.
1212. What's going on, everybody? Let's start with the fireworks. If you guys remember, originally Stephen A. Smith proposed a theory as to why all this was going down.
Remember, Trump has a long history connected to the world of sports because he had those casinos. Where do you think folks were coming half the time? This man is coming. And to me, this is the latest nugget of evidence. Anybody that has been around him, they are not surprised at what's going on today.
After our last video, FBI Director Kash Patel went on Fox News and absolutely destroyed Stephen A. Smith's theory that this investigation was politically motivated revenge from President Trump against the NBA.
That may be the single dumbest thing I've ever heard out of anyone in modern history.
Now, Patel didn't stop there.
How though?
It's right up there with Adam Schiff. We arrest people for crimes.
This is the director of the FBI personally responding to an ESPN commentator. When was the last time that's ever happened? The fact that Patel felt the need to address this publicly tells you how big this story has become. But here's what makes this even more interesting. Patel's response actually raises more questions than it answers. If this investigation has been going on for 4 years like the FBI claims, why announce it the day after the NBA season starts? Why hold a press conference with the FBI director himself? These are fair questions, even if Stephen A. Smith's political angle doesn't hold up. Now let's get into the actual federal indictment, because the details in this document are absolutely wild. We're talking about a 23-page criminal
23, bro. And I know them niggas gonna get into that chamber interrogation room and start snitching. Him did that shit.
complaint filed in the Eastern District of New York that reads like a crime novel. The indictment reveals that between December of 2022 and March of 2024, these defendants ran one of the most brazen sports corruption schemes since online sports betting became widely legalized in the United States. Those aren't my words. Those are the words of U.S. Attorney Joseph Nocella. Let's break down what the indictment actually says about the Terry Rozier situation, because it's even more calculated than we initially reported. On March 23, 2023, before the Hornets played the Pelicans, Rozier told Danilo Laster that he was going to prematurely remove himself from the game in the first quarter due to a supposed injury and not return to play further. This wasn't a game time decision.
I'm actually lost for words.
This was premeditated fraud. According 100%. To the indictment, Laster then sold this information to Marv's Fairley and co-conspirator 1 for approximately $100,000 from their expected gambling winnings. Let that sink in. They agreed to pay $100,000 before the game even happened because they were that confident that the fix was in. But here's where it gets coordinated.
What?
Fairley then passed the information to Shane Hennon, who marshaled an entire network of people to place bets. The indictment lists specific co-conspirators and the exact amounts they bet. Co-conspirator 2 placed approximately $107,000 in bets on Rozier's unders. Timothy McCormack and Long 5 Fam placed approximately $41,000 in bets. Co-conspirator 3 placed approximately $20,000. Co-conspirator 4 placed approximately $17,000. Co-conspirator 5 placed approximately $12,500. All of this happened before the game started. The indictment reveals that sportsbooks flagged the suspicious activity immediately, including 30 wagers in 46 minutes from one professional bettor totaling over $13,000.
Holy freaking sheesh.
All on Rozier's unders. The betting got so suspicious that sportsbooks literally stopped accepting bets on him. But here's what's really disturbing. The indictment references 7 specific games between December of 2022 and March of 2024, where Rozier allegedly tipped people off about his availability. That means this wasn't a one-time thing. This was systematic. For over a year, Terry Rozier was allegedly manipulating games. But there's a comical angle to all of this. One of Terry
Bro, what?
Rozier's records almost got broken on opening night, and the Inside the NBA crew let us all know about it.
Aaron Gordon has made 10 three-pointers tonight, tying Terry Rozier in 2020 for the most in a season opener in NBA history. I kid you not.
Now here's where the scandal becomes a cover-up. ESPN analyst Brian Windhorst dropped a bombshell.
The sportsbooks caught it. They told the NBA right away, and guess what? The NBA, Rozier didn't play the rest of the season, and he had faked the injury, so it wasn't because of the injury. The NBA pulled him.
Wait, what? The NBA pulled him? If the NBA knew about this back in March of 2023 and pulled Terry Rozier from playing, why did they publicly clear him? Why did they tell us there was no more wrongdoing? Another reporter elaborated, the NBA knew about the illegal gambling scheme and tried.
But that's NBA for that though, because if you knew, then you would have like did something, find the nigga. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure if he did, but like if you back him up, that's because you're trying to hide some more shit, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense.
To sweep it under the rug by preventing Rozier from playing for the rest of the season without publicly.
That's a little tap to the wrist, like damn. Thinking like after this year, like he's gonna come back and change his ways. Of course not. Nigga, that's an easy money glitch for him, no lie.
Disclosing the reason. This allowed Rozier to continue receiving his salary and avoid public scrutiny while the investigation was ongoing.
Yo, exactly.
Think about what this means. The Charlotte Hornets and the Miami Heat, who by the way traded for Rozier after the NBA allegedly knew about this, were operating with incomplete information. The fans buying tickets had no idea. The people betting on games had no idea. The Miami Heat had no idea. And Terry Rozier kept collecting his massive salary. One analyst put it perfectly. This is how bad the Rozier situation is. The NBA was alerted to suspicious activity involving Rozier on the night it happened. The Miami Heat were unaware of any suspicious investigation involving Rozier. The NBA felt no obligations to tell the Heat and other teams not to trade for Rozier. This is scummy work by the NBA and the Charlotte Hornets. Miami deserves their draft pick back. The Miami Heat traded for a player who is under FBI investigation for gambling fraud, and nobody told them. How is that even legal?
That's
How is
actually
that
messed
not
up.
a massive lawsuit waiting to happen? Now, here's where the story gets really controversial, and I need you to stick with me on this one because what we're learning about how the NBA handles gambling scandals might actually validate one of the biggest conspiracy theories in basketball history. Now, I'm just gonna go ahead and say this part of the video is a theory. In October of 1993, at the absolute peak of his powers, Michael Jordan shocked the world by retiring from basketball.
I'm very solid with my decision of not to play the game of basketball in the NBA.
He was 30 years old. He had just won his third consecutive NBA championship. He was the most dominant player on the planet, and he had a knack for how competitive he was, and he just walked away. The official story was that his father's murder had devastated him and he'd lost his love for the game. But almost immediately, rumors started circulating about the real reason: gambling debts and a secret suspension from the NBA. The evidence that fueled this theory was compelling.
My bad, chat. I have to plug in the light. Give me a second. Give me a second. We're back. We're back. We're back. We're back.
Jordan had well-documented gambling issues. He was investigated by the NBA for gambling large sums in Atlantic City casinos during the 1993 playoffs. A $57,000 check he wrote to a convicted drug dealer for a golf bet became public. His name appeared in court documents related to a murder investigation involving a golf course manager he'd allegedly owed $1.2 million.
That's insane, bruv. Bro, what? Them niggas gamblers.
To in gambling debts. And then suddenly he retired. Not traded, not a gradual decline, just done at age 30 in his prime. The theory had always been that Commissioner David Stern gave Jordan an ultimatum: accept a secret suspension for gambling violations or face a public lifetime ban that would destroy the NBA's brand. Jordan chose the secret suspension and called it a retirement. He tried baseball for 2 years, the length of the supposed suspension, and then miraculously returned in 1995 with his love for the game restored. And
that's what I was like, how is that even possible though? Like if you think about it, that would be the perfect like piece of puzzle to go together. Like, no lie. If deadass, if you actually put your mind to it, like that's literally what I would think if like I wasn't tapped in. Cause bro, like you're telling me bro left at the height of his career to go do baseball? Usually what people do is they take the pain from whatever just happened and they go harder at what they're doing. And he would have gone way much money, I believe so. If it would have been in the NBA still, you know what I mean? So it doesn't make any sense.
Now with this current scandal, people are connecting the dots. Think about it. We know that the NBA was willing to cover up Rozier's gambling violations, pulling him from games privately while clearing him publicly. The NBA allowed a team to trade for a player under FBI investigation without disclosing that information. The NBA has a pattern of prioritizing its public image and business interests over transparency when gambling is involved, and the NBA kept the Jontay Porter situation quiet for as long as possible before being forced to act. If the league is willing to cover up a role player's gambling scheme in 2023, what would they have done to protect Michael Jordan, the most valuable athlete in the world in 1993? Bear in mind that in 1993, there was no social media. David Stern had complete control of the narrative, and the NBA's entire business model in the 90s was built on Michael Jordan's image. He was generating billions of dollars in revenue. He was a global...
Nigga, billions of dollars in revenue, bro. That's insane work. And despite all of that, niggas still want to gamble. Like, if you think about it, like, it's like you're given, I don't know what it is. It's pretty much addiction, of course, but it could be gambling debt too. Because you were already doing that shit. Now you're in debt from gambling, and you have to make it all back up. You have to make it all. So then you have to do some sketchy ass shit. That's how I see it. But like, if you think about it, 3/4 of the NBA players, even I would say, like, if you touch foot in the NBA and you have a solid career, you deadass don't gotta worry about money if you place it right. or you manage your money right, for the 4 or 5 years that you play, you have enough money to live a good ass life. Let's keep it a buck.
Icon. The league had already survived the cocaine scandals of the 80s and couldn't afford another
that was a whole nother
If
story.
Michael Jordan was caught gambling on basketball or had serious debts to the wrong people, the league would have every incentive to handle it quietly. And Michael Jordan's retirement had weird elements that never made sense. He kept his training routine. He stayed in peak physical condition. He worked out with NBA players. His baseball career seemed like he was just killing time, staying busy until he could return to basketball. The official investigation into Michael Jordan's gambling found no evidence that he bet on NBA games, but it also revealed that he lied to investigators about the extent of his gambling.
Do you have a gambling problem?
No, I enjoy it. It's a hobby. If I had a problem, I'd be starving. I'd be hawking this watch. My championship rings. I would sell my house. I would do this. I do not have a problem. I enjoy gambling.
Sound familiar? That's exactly what we're seeing now. Players and coaches lying about their involvement until the evidence becomes overwhelming. Now, let me be clear. This is still a theory. There's no definitive proof that Michael Jordan was secretly suspended. David Stern denied it. Michael Jordan denied it. The NBA denied it. And it's possible that Jordan was just heartbroken over his father's death and genuinely wanted to try baseball. But what this current scandal proves is that the NBA absolutely would cover up a major gambling violation if they thought it was in the league's best interest. They've done it with Terry Rozier. They allegedly try to do it with Jonte Porter. They have a track record of prioritizing business over transparency. So the question isn't, would the NBA lie about a gambling suspension? We know they would. The question is, did they do it with Michael Jordan? And in light of everything that we're learning, that theory proves to be more plausible than it did a month ago. Now let's talk about Chauncey Billups, because the indictment...
Oh my God, this nigga, bro. Every time I seen his head up, I just wanted to slap it. I don't know why. I never liked him.
Reveals his role was even more sinister than we initially reported. According to federal prosecutors, Billups was used as a face card, a recognizable name to attract wealthy victims who wanted to play poker with an NBA legend, which, by the way, is very similar to what Kevin Garnett did, but there's a huge difference, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Now, bear in mind, these weren't fair games. These were elaborately rigged operations backed by 4 major crime families: the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese families. The indictment describes the sophistication of the cheating: altered shuffling machines that could read card order, poker chip trays with hidden cameras, special contact lenses that could read pre-marked cards as you see in front of you, and
that's it. Oh my God, bruh.
X-ray poker tables that could read cards face down. They even had an offside quarterback who would receive the card information and relay it to the players at the table via hidden devices. Victims lost at least $7 million. One
Like what?
person lost $1.8 million in these rigged games. But here's the detail that's got social media exploding. When Billups was arrested, he was wearing a Clutch Sports hoodie. For those of you guys who don't know, Clutch Sports is the agency founded by LeBron James and Rich Paul. They represent some of the biggest names in basketball. One person on X said it perfect.
Is that a sign? Is that telling us that LeBron James is part of the whole shit? Honestly, I would never want to believe that. Even if it's true, I'm gonna call it cap.
Chauncey Billups wore a Dookie Brown Clutch Sports hoodie to his federal court appearance. This is a bat signal for LeBron and Clutch Sports. Chauncey is telling them, y'all better get me out of here or I'm snitching. Now, that could just be a theory as well. Is Billups
That's what I
sending
try
a
to say.
message? Is he saying, I know things about your organization and you better help me? Because that's certainly what it looks like. And given that Damon Jones, who's also charged in this case, was allegedly selling insider information about LeBron James, this connection becomes even more interesting. Let's dig deeper into the Damon Jones situation, because the indictment reveals that.
So is that why that nigga got fired back then? Nah, selling information is insane work, bro. That has to be the fakest thing that you can do.
LeBron James was completely betrayed by someone he trusted. The indictment describes Jones as an unofficial assistant coach on the Los Angeles Lakers during the 2022-23 season, who had access to non-public information, including medical information that had not been released to the public. Here's the specific incident that's in the federal indictment. On February 9th, 2023, 2 days after LeBron broke Kareem's all-time scoring record, Jones texted co-conspirator 9, "Get a big bet on Milwaukee tonight before the information is out. Player 3 is out tonight. Bet enough so D. Jones can eat now." Player 3 is LeBron James. The indictment confirms that at the time, Jones provided this non-public information about player 3 to co-conspirator 9, and player 3 was not ruled out on the NBA's injury report for the February 9th game. The indictment mentions another incident on January 15, 2024, where Jones claimed he learned from the Lakers trainer that another top Lakers player was injured and would play limited minutes. Jones sold this information for $2,500 to Marv's Fairley, who then placed a $100,000 bet on the Lakers. Think about
Wow.
the violation of trust here. These trainers, these coaches, these support staff, they have access to the most private medical information about players. They know about injuries before anybody else. They know about family issues, about personal struggles, about everything. And someone was selling that information to gamblers. Now here's where things get interesting. The indictment mentions co-conspirator 8, which is described as a resident of Oregon. Co-conspirator 8 was an NBA player from approximately 1997 through 2014. And an NBA coach since at least 2021. Who's an NBA coach in Oregon who played from 1997 through 2014? Well, that description matches Chauncey Billups perfectly. He's the Portland Trailblazers head coach. He played...
Bro, a head coach being an information seller is insane. Let that sink in. Your head coach is selling your information for other niggas to bet is crazy. It's crazy to think, like I said, it's crazy probably like 40 times, but it's honestly like blowing my mind how a head coach would do that. Someone you're supposed to go to when you need something, bro, on the floor or whatnot, you can't even talk to them in them. Because you tell him something, he gonna use that shit against you to gain a bit of more money, to get a bit more money. Just a little bit of more money.
From 1997 to 2014, and he lives in Oregon. The indictment details how co-conspirator 8 provided Eric Ernest with insider information about the Portland Trailblazers tanking games and sitting star players before that information was public. Ernest then sold that information to Marv's Fairley, who placed massive bets against the Portland Trailblazers. On March 24, 2023, the Trailblazers played the Chicago Bulls. According to the indictment, co-conspirator 8 told Ernest before the news was public that several of the Blazers' best players wouldn't be playing. This information allowed Fairley, Hennon, and their network to place over $100,000 in bets against Portland before the injury report was released. If co-conspirator 8 is Chauncey Billups, then he wasn't just involved in rigged poker games. He was allegedly providing inside information about his own team to gamblers.
That's
As a
fucked.
head coach, that's a level of corruption that's almost hard to comprehend. And just when you think this story can't get any crazier, there's now multiple reports that indicate that Kevin Garnett was among former NBA players who participated in these private poker games. KG is a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest players of all time. Without a doubt, a top 3 power forward of all time, and you can make a very reasonable argument that he is one of the top power forwards in NBA history at his peak. He was allegedly playing in poker games that were part of this investigation called Operation Royal Flush. Now, to be clear, we don't know if Garnett knew that these games were rigged. The indictment describes how these games used celebrity face cards to attract wealthy victims. Garnett might have been used the same way, not knowing that other players at the table were cheating. But even if Garnett was innocent, even if he was just playing poker and didn't know about the cheating, his involvement shows how deep into the NBA culture this operation went. These
Bro, that shit is hurting me, bro.
weren't fringe players or retired journeymen. We're talking about Hall of Famers, current coaches, active players, and legends of the game. The indictment also confirms that the Jontay Porter case, which we thought was an isolated incident last year, was actually part of this larger network. Federal prosecutors revealed that Porter was actually threatened to participate in the gambling scheme because of his gambling debts. He wasn't just corrupted by greed, he was in over his head with organized crime, and they forced him to manipulate games. And here's the connection. Long Fi Fam, who was involved in the Porter scheme, also provided information to Shane Hennon for the Rozier bets. Same network, same operation, same criminal enterprise. The indictment shows how Hennon received information.
So everything is like connected somehow.
From Fam about Porter's plan to exit games early, then shared it with Marv's Fairley, and together they coordinated bets across their entire network. Hennon conducted multiple transfers via peer-to-peer mobile payment platforms to promote the scheme and distribute the proceeds of such wagers. This wasn't amateur hour, this was an organized criminal operation with sophisticated money laundering, multiple networks of bettors, and connections that ran from professional gamblers to NBA coaches to organized crime families. But here's the craziest part, the NBA knew about all of this. Let's take a zoom out and look at the timeline. On March 23, 2023, Rozier leaves a game early. Sportsbooks immediately flag suspicious betting. In March of 2023, the NBA allegedly pulls Rozier from playing the rest of the season. In the summer of 2023, the NBA investigates Rozier and publicly clears him of wrongdoing. In February of 2024, the Miami Heat trade for Rozier, apparently unaware of any investigation. In April of 2024, Jontay Porter is banned for life for a similar scheme. And then in October of 2025, the FBI arrests Rozier, Billups, and 32 others. So the NBA knew in March of 2023 that something was wrong with Rozier. They knew sportsbooks had flagged his betting patterns. They knew he left a game early under suspicious circumstances, and they publicly cleared him, allowed him to be traded, and said nothing. Wendy's comments hit hard.
The sportsbooks caught the irregular betting on Terry Rozier the day it happened, the morning it happened. They told the NBA right away, and guess what? The NBA pulled them. The NBA at some point is going to have to explain why Terry Rozier was allowed to keep playing.
Commissioner Adam Silver had built his reputation on transparency and integrity. He was the first major sports commissioner to advocate for legalized sports betting, arguing that it would create oversight and catch corruption. But when that oversight worked exactly as intended and caught one of his players, the league allegedly covered it up.
Terry Rozier was allowed to keep playing after an NBA investigation ruled that there was no NBA rules violated.
So what happened was, because bets were placed through legal betting companies, they picked up.
So basically they're mad because niggas are exploiting the thing that they wanted to initially set up. It doesn't make any sense. So if the FBI don't want niggas to do that type of shit, why have it in the first place?
Aberrational behavior.
Why make it legal?
Around a particular game in March of 23. That was brought to our attention by the regulators and the betting companies. We then looked into that situation. We frankly couldn't find anything, and we ultimately concluded that there was insufficient evidence despite that aberrational behavior.
According to the indictment, Billups and Rozier are both charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Wire fraud carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. Money laundering can add another 20 years. The indictment also includes forfeiture allegations. The government wants to seize any property, real or personal, constituting or derived from proceeds obtained directly or indirectly from these crimes. Rozier posted his $6 million Florida property as collateral and was released from custody. He walked out of court in handcuffs and shackles wearing a Charlotte Hornets hoodie, an image that's now iconic. Billups was arraigned in Portland. Damon Jones was arrested in Las Vegas. All three are on immediate leave from the NBA.
Bro, that's
remember
wild,
what Commissioner Tisch said?
As the NBA season tips off, his career is already benched, not for injury, but for integrity.
And here's what really keeps me up at night about this story. Who else is involved? The indictment mentions 9 unnamed co-conspirators. Co-conspirator 1 is described as at times an NBA player who's a resident of Florida. Who is that? Co-conspirator 8 appears to be Chauncey Billups based on the description. Who are the other 7? The FBI says this investigation is ongoing. They arrested 34 people, but 13 of those are members of organized crime families. That leaves 21 people connected to sports betting, NBA information, and this fraudulent scheme. We know about Rozier, Billups, Jones, Laster, Hennon, Fairley, Ernest, and and Jontay Porter. That's 8. Where are the other 13? And here's the really scary question. How many games were affected that we don't know about? The indictment references 7 specific games involving Rozier between December of 2022 and March of 2024. It mentions the Portland Trailblazers games, it mentions the Lakers games, it mentions the Raptors games with Jontay Porter, but those are just the ones where the FBI had enough evidence to include in the indictment. How many other games had suspicious betting patterns that didn't quite reach the threshold for prosecution? How many other players were tipping off information to friends and family? How many other coaches were selling insider information? Every weird rotation decision, every unexpected injury, every bizarre coaching choice over the past few years, we're all going to look at those differently now.
100%.
Now let's address the elephant in the room. LeBron James is not accused of any wrongdoing. Let me make that absolutely clear. But his name is all over this case because of the people around him. Damon Jones, his former teammate and friend who had access to Lakers facilities, was allegedly selling information about LeBron's injury status to gamblers. That's a fact according to the federal indictment. Chauncey Billups, who played against LeBron for years and is now charged in this case, wore a Clutch Sports hoodie to his first federal court appearance. Why? What was the message that he was sending? And here's what makes people suspicious. Clutch Sports has grown into one of the most powerful agencies in professional sports. They represent dozens of NBA players, coaches, and executives. They have relationships with teams, with the league office, and with media companies. If you wanted to gather insider information about NBA games, having connections to a major agency would certainly help. Again, and I can't stress this enough, and I know for a fact there's going to be a comment in the comment section saying, Mike, you can't just baselessly accuse LeBron James of any wrongdoing. So I'm going to say this again. There's no evidence that LeBron James, Rich Paul, or Clutch Sports as an organization had anything to do with the scheme. But the fact that multiple people connected to this case have ties to Clutch raises questions that somebody needs to answer. When your former teammate is selling insider information about your injuries and your agency's hoodie shows up at a federal gambling fraud arraignment, at minimum, you need to explain what's going on. And here's the uncomfortable truth. This scandal doesn't happen without legalized sports betting creating the financial incentives for this level of corruption. Think about it. Before 2018, when sports betting was illegal in most states, these schemes existed, but they were harder to execute and the payouts were smaller. Now, you can bet hundreds of thousands of dollars on prop bets about whether a player will score 20 points. You can bet on minutes played, on three-pointers made, and every conceivable statistical outcome. The betting companies, DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, and others are official partners of the NBA. They're sponsoring broadcasts. They're advertising during games. They're integrated into the sport. The league itself profits directly from gambling now. Hell, sometimes when I go online and watch my favorite YouTuber, he's shoveling gambling down my throat.
I ain't gonna lie, legalizing gambling has been one of the most fucked up shit that they could have done, bro. Because everybody's addicted to that shit. I bet you if you open one of you, like, if we had 10 people lined up right now, at least 70% of them, 7 out of 10, would have a gambling app howsoever. Even if they don't gamble regularly, they would have a gambling app. Let's keep it a buck. You can test it out. If you go to school tomorrow, ask your friends, bro. Well, if you're over the age, you know what I mean?
Personally makes me sick. Jokes aside, Adam Silver argued that legalization would create transparency, and he was right. The reason we caught these schemes is because legal sportsbooks flagged the suspicious activity. But legalization also created a gold rush. It made the incentives for insider information exponentially more valuable. A player who knows he's going to sit out can now tip off friends who can bet hundreds of thousands of dollars on his
100%.
unders. A coach who knows which players are sitting can provide that information to gamblers who can bet against his own team. The prop betting markets have created corruption opportunities that simply didn't exist at this scale before. So the NBA is facing an existential crisis, and Commissioner Adam Silver needs to act decisively. Here's what should happen. First, he needs to create transparency. The league needs to release a full accounting of what they knew about Rozier, when they knew it, and why they cleared him publicly while apparently pulling him from games privately. The fans deserve answers. Second, there needs to be policy changes. Prop bets on
if they ever do that, the reason would be like because we were conducting an investigation by the FBI and that was the best thing we could do. These niggas is gonna lie, bro.
individual player performance need to be reconsidered. At minimum, the NBA should push for rules that prevent on betting whether specific players will hit their statistical lines, especially for role players who can easily manipulate their own performance. I mean, since the NBA season started, I've been on a streak of betting the under on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander dunking the ball, and that's fine because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the best player on the best team in the NBA. There's no way he's gonna throw his own games for the sake of some crime family's gambling profit. But an obscure player that gets like 5 to 10 minutes a game, maybe we need to reconsider having his prop bet available. Third is accountability. If there are NBA executives, team personnel, or league officials who knew about this investigation and failed to act appropriately, they need to be held accountable. You can't
100%.
cover up federal gambling investigations and keep your job. Fourth is enhanced monitoring. The NBA needs to investigate in technology and personnel to identify suspicious betting patterns in real time and investigate them immediately, not months later, not after clearing players publicly, but immediately. And finally, real consequences. If these allegations are proven true, lifetime bans need to be swift and permanent, not just for players like Jonte Porter, but for coaches like Chauncey Billups, for support staff like Damon Jones, for anyone who betrayed the integrity of the game. Because here's the reality: gambling is now legal, it's now integrated into sports, and it's not going away. The only question is whether professional sports can maintain integrity in this new environment, or whether every game becomes suspect. So here we are, a Hall of Fame coach allegedly running rigged poker games for the mob, an NBA player allegedly faking injuries so his friends could win prop bets, a former player allegedly selling LeBron James's medical information to gamblers, an entire network spanning across multiple states, involving dozens of people connected to organized crime families and operating for years right under the NBA's nose. And the most disturbing part is the NBA apparently knew about at least part of this for over a year and did nothing. They cleared players publicly who they were investigating privately. They allowed teams to trade for players who were under FBI investigation. They prioritized public relations over integrity. And now we're left wondering, if they covered up Terry Rozier's gambling scheme in 2023, what else have they covered up? Does this validate the Michael Jordan suspension theory? Was the greatest player of all time secretly banned for gambling in 1993 and the league just called it a retirement? The investigation's ongoing. The FBI says there are 9 unnamed co-conspirators. Stephen A. Smith says that this is just the tip of the iceberg, and for once in his life, he might be right. We're gonna keep following this story. We're gonna keep digging into court documents. We're gonna keep asking the questions that need to be asked. Because if we don't hold the NBA accountable, if we just move on to the next story, then
it's gonna happen again. Deadass makes me want to look at sport a different way, because then like I guess to a point where niggas don't enjoy the sport no more. You can't even watch because people are not playing to their full potential. You know what I mean? And it sucks. It sucks. It takes out the fun of the game, bro. Especially for people that actually like put their time and money into this shit. It's just not right, dude. It's just not right. Anywho, damn, the NBA is cooked, bruh.